Hi friends, welcome back to Locally Raised. This is Marta if you're new here, and I am sitting beneath my new tomato trellis that John just built for me. I have been gardening tomatoes for several years, but I've always kept a couple plants and I have not been pruning my indeterminate tomatoes. I know it's recommended by a lot of people, but I always got as many tomatoes as I wanted for fresh eating for my family throughout the summer. So I didn't prune my tomatoes and I used a tomato cage for support, and they inevitably grew too tall for the cage, but I was okay with that. Anyhow, I started this channel last summer because I decided that I want to shift the way that I source my family's food. I want to be able to meet more of my family's nutritional needs from our backyard. So this is the year for me to scale up my tomato production. I'm going to try pruning my tomatoes this year and training them up a string. I'm going to space them just 12 inches apart, which is an aggressive spacing. But from everything I've read and from people I've talked to and other people I've seen on YouTube, it seems like pruning your indeterminate tomatoes and training that main stem up a string is a great way to be able to yield harvests all summer and maximize your produce per square foot. So let me show you this trellis. Each of these bars is 3 foot long. And if you can see, there's kind of some shadows here, but there's a hook and a hook and a hook. So I'll attach string to each of these, and I have 7 bars in all. So this could be 21 tomato plants. I've definitely not grown that many tomato plants before, and like I said, I've not grown them that way before. It makes me a little bit nervous trying something new in the garden, but of course, that's the way to grow and to learn. Let me show you how John built this trellis so that you know what to do if you want to try this as well. Building the trellis began with cutting 2 pieces of a 2x4 to the height of the raised bed. These served as some blocking to attach the posts of the trellis to. 4 thin shims were also cut because the 2x4s weren't quite thick enough to do their job. Next, John measured the center of each end of the bed. This served as a reference point for installing the blocking and later installing the posts of the trellis. The 2x4s, along with some shims, were screwed into place beneath the lip of the bed so that the surface of the 2x4s was flush with the lip. We used 8-foot 4x4s as the posts for the trellis. If you prefer, you could bury these in the ground to secure them rather than screwing them into the side of the bed. I wanted the top of the trellis to be about 6 feet above the soil, so attaching the posts to the side of the bed rather than burying them was the right choice for us. Next, we attached a 2x4 to either side of the posts, so the posts were sandwiched between 2x4s. Using 2 boards at the top was something we did because we liked the look of it. It wasn't necessary for stability. After that, John cut the cross pieces. These are the pieces that the hooks will be screwed into so that the strings can be attached to them. The cross pieces were 3 feet long because the inside width of the bed is just over 3 feet, and we want to have 3 rows of tomatoes that are spaced a foot apart. John initially cut the cross pieces from 2x4s and then ripped each 2x4 so that we ended up with a 2x2. As a final touch, he cut the end of each cross piece at an angle. This is just an aesthetic choice. This is not necessary, but I really like how it looked. It kind of gave a pergola effect to the final result. We discovered that the best way to screw in the eye hooks was to initially screw in by hand and then tighten them with a lever, in this case, a pencil. I'm very happy with this finished product, so I'll be able to plan out my tomatoes next week. I've said this so many times now, but I think we're actually past our final frost after this week. The weather has surprised me a couple times, but this is my first spring in Zone 6B in quite some time. So next week I'll make a video of myself planning out my tomatoes. I'll be using these hooks, and each of these hooks goes in one of those eye hooks up top, and then I can just unravel the string and tray my tomatoes up the string. And if they get too tall for the trellis, because the trellis is about 6 feet above the soil, then I'll start to rotate the hooks and move the plants around the trellis as many times as I need to so that they can grow all summer long. I'm really curious to see how long my longest vine will be and to see how many tomatoes I can get out of this one raised bed. Thanks so much for joining my family for this project today. I hope this has given you some ideas and inspiration for your garden. I invite you to subscribe and follow along as we shift the way that we source our family's food. Happy gardening, and I'll see you next week.